I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform. I am honored to have back with me someone I consider a very dear friend and someone who I believe is the most honest person in the precious metals arena, Adriana Reed. She has been with the Camino Company since 2011 as a trader, and she is one of the principals in the Camino Company, CaminoCompany.com. Now, Adriana and I have done, this is, I believe, our third video presentation on a YouTube platform. We've also done dozens of radio interviews over the years on the Operation Freedom platform. And I must say, every time Adriana comes on the radio show or on this YouTube platform, I am inundated with requests of folks asking me to get Adriana back for her insight as it relates to the precious metals markets and what's actually happening from a geopolitical standpoint. Adriana, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform.
Thanks for having me again, Dave.
You know, Adriana, before we get into this issue with the coronavirus and its effects on financial markets and what people can do financially to, if you will, insure themselves or protect themselves, you're based in Northern California, specifically in the San Francisco area.
Yes.
Now, there are very few people in what I call the bought-off lamestream fake media that are talking about what San Francisco has become. Now, you have lived in San Francisco Bay Area your entire life, correct?
I have, yes.
Okay. So why don't you educate us about where we are in Northern California right now? Because I believe it links into what we're going to speak about, because the CDC has recently come out and said that while they're concerned about community spread of the coronavirus, and specifically there is an individual in the Bay Area that they have focused on, yet they first put out a release saying we're concerned about community spread. On the other hand, then further in their release, they say, well, this person actually might have been around someone who came from China. They bury that part. But let's talk about the current state of affairs in the San Francisco area, because I believe, exclusive of the coronavirus, we have a huge public health problem in the Bay Area and Northern California and San Francisco. Am I off?
No, absolutely. We really have, I would attribute it to a wage gap, honestly, because it comes back to economics, in my personal opinion, and also taking care of people in the Bay Area, that we've really gotten to the point where there's homeless camps that are being set up. People are living on the street. They're unable to even afford, small apartments. A small apartment right now, 1-bedroom apartment, is upward of $3,000 right now for rent. And, wages are not matching that. So individuals are resorting to living on the street. And it's a very high population of homeless people, especially in the Bay Area, I've noticed, and San Francisco specifically. And it's causing a health crisis, in my opinion, because, you have issues of, restroom use and hygiene. Hygiene is very important in stopping viruses from spreading. And keeping places clean and sanitary. And, it's become a huge issue for us in the Bay Area that I don't think, in my personal opinion, is being addressed accordingly. It's not being addressed with any urgency. And it's a huge issue for me and, my family, as far as how we move and how we visit San Francisco as a city that I grew up around. I grew up going into because it's beauty and it's grace, and it's definitely made some changes.
And in fact, Adriana, and tell me if I'm wrong, but recently it came out that the kids and through their education system in San Francisco, wasn't there a huge amount of money that has gone missing out of the education system that was targeted for the kids and for the schools that, well, it's in somebody's or a number of people's pockets?
Exactly. Dave, it's on the front page. It was on the front page of the paper that they said that $360 million that was supposed to go towards our education system was fraudulently used. And you and I feel the same way. We're very adamant about taking care of kids in the United States in general, and taking care of families. And honestly, it kind of breaks my heart and really upsets me and angers me, because it's the exact thing that I fight against, is the government misusing people, and to especially do it to children. And education is so important right now, in my personal opinion, because I think that it's where America's lacking. We're having tons of people, not growing up educated enough to understand their liberties and their freedoms, and understand history, fact, and truth. And so it's a disappointment.
Well, one of the people that's politicizing this entire issue of, for example, President Trump not handling the coronavirus issue appropriately, and I would disagree with that assessment, actually, with the people he has around him, but has been Nancy Pelosi, who's from San Francisco.
Correct.
And in her area of this of the country where she's from, we're talking about homelessness. We're talking about public hygiene issues. The streets being used as a bathroom, which is in and of itself becomes a petri dish for not only the coronavirus but any virus. She's pointing the finger at President Trump. And in her own neck of the woods, we have this huge public health crisis occurring, of which I haven't heard her doing, or the people around her, or the governor doing much of anything about it. And we're missing now, as you pointed out, $360 million from the kids in the San Francisco Community's Education Program.
Yeah. Dave, it goes back to exactly how I feel. It's big politics has taken over taking care of small areas. And we're so caught up in impeachments and all these unnecessary tactics instead of taking care of the American people on a small scale, because it's the individuals in towns. And if, I'm a believer that if we went back to small government, it would always be the best, And it's this show that keeps going on with all these back and forths of everything, and wasting our time and our money. That's really all it is.
And our future.
Yeah.
Because it puts our future on the line. Now, you're based, as I said, in Northern California. Yes. The CDC recently came out and said, well, there's this one person that we're concerned might be with a community transfer. On the other hand, they might have actually had contact with somebody from China. How far is Traverse Air Force Base is in Northern California?
Yes, it is.
A number of the people from that cruise ship, Diamond Princess, or whatever you want to call it, Virus from the Seas, or Virus of the Seas, or whatever you want to call it. They brought a number of those folks back to Travis.
They did, yes.
What are you seeing in Northern California now, since that seems to be a bit of a hub of this coronavirus issue?
I think they're doing a very good job of containing it with the individuals that they brought there. It has been reported potentially that about 4 people, I believe they said, in the Bay Area have come up positive. 3, they have completely sourced where it came from. And 1, like you said, they've actually haven't put it down where it came from. And, it's a concern. So there's been a lot of, emails coming out to people in the area from, our school systems, our local politicians, and CDC warnings, just to make sure you take care of yourself. But I will say the people that they brought back to the Travis Air Force Base is it's a very strong medical base, and they're very, very good at taking care of the people that they've brought back. So it's for us, it actually hasn't been a scare at all on that end of things. And
where you're based in Northern California, there is a higher than, for example, in the state of Michigan, Chinese population. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
And are you seeing a panic type of situation developing because of that?
I wouldn't say people are panicking, no. But I definitely think that people are taking more caution just because they're, the San Francisco airport is a very, very large hub for, international travel in general. A lot of people come through there, come and go. And so, we see more masks, more signs telling people to make sure that you're washing your hands, taking necessary caution against, touching things and how to go about it. Some of the health things that you've said on your show as well, to, ways to take care of yourself through
That's
everything,
right.
to make sure that you're well taken care of.
No. And these are not fancy recommendations. They're not expensive recommendations. One of the single most effective ways, and you mentioned it, and I believe it bears repeating. We've talked about it in our YouTube presentations as well.
Yes.
Is washing your hands regularly.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is, we don't. We're not talking about billions of dollars going into a vaccination development or into new drugs. There are some basic public health things that could easily make a difference. I want to turn to the coronavirus and in particular its effect on the economy and what people can do to protect themselves. But I want to run something by you. There was an article recently by Brandon Smith. And you and I have discussed at great length the business model of the deep state being death, destruction, and chaos. And here's what Brandon Smith says. How a viral pandemic benefits the globalist agenda. I'd like your take on this. Global pandemic, whether a natural event or deliberately engineered, actually serves the purpose of the globalist establishment in a number of ways. First and foremost, it's a superb distraction. The general public, overcome with fears of an invisible force of nature that can possibly kill them at any moment, will probably forget about all the much bigger threat to their life, liberty, and future. That being the subsequent collapse of the massive everything bubble and the globalist solution that a pandemic can trigger. He goes on.
Yes.
The globalist establishment has created the largest financial bubble in modern history through central bank stimulus, inflating a highly unstable artificial rally in the markets, while also creating new highs in national debt, corporate debt, and consumer debt. The economic fundamentals have been sending alarms for the past 2 years, which you and I have spoken about at great length, Adriana, I must say.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And the everything bubble is showing signs of implosion. It is only a matter of time before the farce collapses by itself. The globalists need scapegoats, but they also need an event or wave of events so distracting that people will not be able to discern what really happened. Your take.
I mean, I think he hit it right on the nose. I mean, there's no other way to put it. As he said, chaos and distraction. It's all smoking mirrors. We've said this multiple times, setting people up so that while you're looking over here, something's actually going on over there. And the feds have even come out saying that all of the central banks need to work together on a global level in order to fix this. And I think that kind of says it there. I mean, it's that the group of rich central bankers who say, let's get together and figure out what to do next. And it starts with the bubble they've created. In 2008, when the crisis happened in the first place, the foundation was not fixed. We kept riding a wave right after where we quote, fixed things. We moved on and created this great economy, but the feds knew what they were doing in overinflating everything to make this bubble that they've created. And, I think what they're doing is they're really setting up for within the next year that we're going to see a lot of things start to happen. And I think that the coronavirus is just the start of the chaos that they're creating. I think it gives people an opportunity also to see what distraction's capable of. Look at what the stock markets have done just in 3 days based off of how people feel about a virus. And it's really affected our economy. In one day alone, $1.7 trillion was lost in the stock market. And when you talk figures like that, it needs to be understood who's controlling that and who's creating that narrative. And we really need to look at the feds and the real issue.
Well, and as you have pointed out over the years, Adriana, and I must say, 3 or 4 years ago when you started to speak about this, some folks are saying, well, that Adriana seems very nice, but she's a little bit negative looking at how the numbers are looking here. Well, in fact, you were pointing out hard and fast data that the bought-off lamestream fake media, the CNBSs of the world and the Fox Business News of the world weren't reporting, and that is the underlying foundation of the structure of the economy was actually not that sound, and that this a bubble that was being inflated was actually one based on debt, DEBT, and credit, and not on fundamental gains, if you will, in what's needed to shore up a strong economy.
Exactly, and it takes years to realize things like this, and unfortunately, you and I have had this conversation multiple times now that we're, quote, in the longest running bull market, but I think the awareness hopefully is starting to come out of what's going on.
And while the issue of coronavirus was coming forward, and as far as, and I must say, the lamestream media's tried to put a spin of panic into it.
Right.
So it's reassuring to hear that even in Northern California, which is kind of ground zero for some of these issues, that, as you mentioned, there isn't panic. But just some data points that have occurred in the past several days that people are unaware of because they're busy focusing on the spin that's occurring with the coronavirus. Yeah. Richmond Fed Business Survey crashes in February as new orders collapse. Subprime credit card delinquency spiked to record high past financial crisis peak. Recession tipping point triggered. 10-year yield crashes below 1.4%. Countdown to zero rate begins. And then there's the underlying rumor, Adriana, that the Fed might hold in a rather than, so reportedly before it was, they might cut rates in June, maybe not. But now they're talking about moving that timetable up of bringing rates down further to try to smooth over what we're seeing in the markets. Your take on all that?
I think they're using the coronavirus in order to actually cause potentially, a decrease in interest rates because the stability of the market wasn't there in the first place. Right. And so they had to keep pushing as much as they could, stopping interest rates from dropping because, you run into really dangerous water when you go into negative interest rates. And so they've been pushing as much as they can to try to not drop them. And I think this chaos is the perfect opportunity to say, we need to drop interest rates. And like I said, create their own narrative at that and cause this extra stimulus into the market to bring people back into the investment side of things. And, honestly, Dave, I would say it's definitely smoke and mirrors because like we talked about at the beginning of the video, there's millions of people in the Bay Area and there's only 4 people reported with the virus. And to me, that's not... in the United States, that's not a huge issue.
Well, in that same time frame, how many people got the standard flu?
Exactly.
Right?
And, you look at percentages and everything as well. It's of people who pass away from the regular flu. Mm-hmm. I think it runs pretty close, if I'm correct, to people who've passed away from the coronavirus. And, and
President Trump said it the other night. He said, he said, I was unaware until I talked to these folks from these medical communities, but we're talking about 20 to 60,000 people die in the United States every year from the flu.
That's correct. Yes.
And we got to keep our guard up on the coronavirus. And I think the tone he took was good in a sense that, look, this is an issue. We got all these good people here. Everybody's watching this thing. Everybody's working on things. I do think they need to develop better testing. That's an issue, but and I think they're doing that. But maybe the CDC dropped the ball a little bit on that beforehand. But that's a show for another day. But the bottom line is that I think the tone he struck was, look, we're on this. Yeah. We're not looking away. We're on this. On the other hand. Let's just keep everything in perspective right now for where we are. Yes. Now, so here's the thing. Many people have contacted me and said, I have felt, I've been listening to, Adriana and a number of guests you have on talking about this, and I felt uncomfortable about what's going on with the markets. But now I'm really uncomfortable when I'm seeing these big drops. And I called my broker, and these folks said to me, I told them, my broker, okay, I want to sell some stock. I just want to put some on the side here. And what I'd like to do then, and the broker said, well, what do you want to do with it? And these folks said, well, I'm going to buy some precious metals with them, some gold and silver, because when I'm watching everything go down, gold and silver at a minimum are holding their own, and some days going up pretty good.
Yes,
and
correct.
The brokers universally tell these folks, well, if you want to do anything, why don't you just buy some bonds and hold cash?
Right.
Okay. So that can be fine, but let's talk about the insurance policies of gold and silver, because if you do look at what's been happening,
yes,
gold and silver have been steady and moving up, although occasionally they have some downdrafts, but moving up while all this is going on. And unfortunately, when you watch CNBS or listen to Bloomberg and listen to, and I mean Michael Bloomberg, I mean his media stuff, and Fox Business News, they don't talk about precious metals.
No,
okay?
They do not.
And what they also don't talk about, because this can be a huge problem for folks, is how to purchase gold and silver. Because one of the big problems, Adriana, is that as folks start getting into this now, because now they're going to start to not panic, but see the writing on the wall, say, okay, now's the time I have to get into this. My concern is that many of these people are going to get ripped off.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about gold and silver. Let's talk about the benefits of gold and silver, why, and let's talk about how folks purchase precious metals and not get ripped off, because that's key.
Yeah. So the main thing that I tell people, especially when you're talking to an investment broker, is be strong. It's your money. Make sure that you understand that that belongs to you and to nobody else. The main thing is that you want to make sure that you also have the understanding of why you're purchasing precious metals. Precious metals are insurance, and you and I say this millions of times to our customers, to our friends, to our family. You want to invest with the idea that you're putting this money away for a rainy day, is really what it comes down to, and protecting yourself, and working in opposition of fiat currency. So I always tell people to make sure that you're very strong in your purchase and what you're doing. Typically what I'll tell people is you always want to have 10% of a portfolio in precious metals at least. I think it's always important to watch the markets and see what they're doing, because they will tell you when you're moving closer to potentially needing more. And so the main thing when you're buying precious metals, you always want to stay away from people who work on commission, people who try and sell you things that are commemorative, once in a lifetime type purchases. Mm-hmm. You always want to purchase the simple things when you are going into a precious metals market. Things that run low premiums, that have great buyback, and you always want to be aware of the spot price. The spot price, and I want to go over this because it's a conversation that I have a lot. The spot price is what's traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and we also have an aftermarket as well with the Asian markets as well. And that price, you always want to buy closest as you possibly can to that price, because at the end of the day, I always tell people that gold is gold. And so you don't want to pay any more than you have to for it.
Now, some people will say, wait a minute, this person called me, which I think is another red flag, cold calls.
Yes.
This person called me and said that they would sell me gold or silver at the spot price. Now, Adriana.
Yes.
Nobody can own a business and sell a product, gold or silver, at the spot price, correct?
Impossible.
Right. So when you hear that, That's a
Yes.
red flag in my mind.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Everything is going to run a premium. That's just supply, demand, and business.
And is the premium constant, or can it change as markets change?
It will change as markets change.
Okay. So one of the issues that developed, I know, in 2007 and 2008, when the markets were really unstable, let's say,
Yes.
is people started to flood late. It's always
Yes.
late
Always.
into gold and silver, and there became a supply problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, so right now, where are we with supplies of precious metals like gold and silver?
I think we're definitely in a good place. I think it's a great time to buy, personally, because the metals are out there to match the demand, because we haven't reached that real fear like we did in 2007-8 yet. And so I think it's a perfect time to get ahead.
So let's talk about the process. So,
Yes.
because I think when you outline the process, if folks go to buy precious metals
Yes.
and they hear of a different process or procedure, that's a red flag. So let's talk, because I believe the way you and everyone at Camino does this and has done, and as you know, I've known the folks at Camino for 25 some years. When Bert was back there who started it.
Yes.
Take us through the procedure. So let's say someone decides, okay, look, I need some insurance because I'm seeing these markets really gyrating and they're unstable, and I need to have some stability, some gold and silver. Okay,
Yes.
So someone decides that they're going to invest a certain amount. When they call you, take us through the steps of what happens so people can know, okay, look, this is the way a transaction should be handled.
Yes. So when you're ready to place an order, you're going to call us. You can talk to any of the traders because we do not work on commission. We'll go over what it is that you are looking to do, whether you want gold, silver, or both. We typically recommend both. We think it's good to have both. We'll go over all of the pricing and work out a specific plan that works for you. We'll give you an invoice number. That invoice number locks in all of the prices at the time of the order. So as you see today, markets are making extreme fluctuations. Once we give you that contract number, all prices are locked in. So if the markets go up, I will not charge you more. If they go down, you're going to guarantee that you're going to send payment for the price that you locked in. Once you lock in the price, we just require that payment be postmarked within 48 hours if you do not live in the area. So we set personal checks. You can also have the option of sending a wire if you would like. You just need to let us know. We hold all checks for 5 business days, and then you get in line to ship, and then we'll ship out to you after. You will be notified. You'll be called, or if you'd like an email, we notify you based on your preference when it ships so that you know it's on its way. All packages that we send out, we make sure that they're well packed in order to make sure that nobody knows what's inside the box. And on top of that, we also only put Camino Company and prefer that you only put Camino Company at the point of order, so we don't flag anybody with coin on the outside or anything like that.
And when folks are looking at buying gold and silver, so what are their options?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the gold side, we always recommend the Gold Eagles. The Maple Leaf is a great option. We also, America has the Buffalo, which is the 24 karat version. I find a lot of people would like 24 karat gold and they want it to be American, so it's a great option. There's also bars, which are an option, but we have a tendency to tell people to go for the coins. And then on the silver side, there's great options with the Silver Eagles. I prefer the 1 ounce rounds that are privately minted because they run a very low premium. And like I say over and over, silver is silver at the end of the day. If all things go that south, nobody's going to look at the image on the outside. And then another great option is also the 90%. The 90% is also known as junk silver. So pre-1965, so 64 and before, half dollars, quarters, and dimes. They're a great option to purchase, especially after what we saw happen in Venezuela, to have small denominational silver in order to use if need be.
Mm-hmm. So prior to 1964, or 64 and before, 90% of those coins were silver.
All coins that were half dollars, quarters, and dimes, they contain 90% of silver.
Okay, so so right now they're looking at their quarter, minted in 2019 and in 2020, and they go, well, wait, hey, it looks like silver, isn't it? Hey, what percentage of silver are in those coins?
None.
What?
None.
None. Yeah. So we've gone from 90 to 0.
Yes.
Okay. Yet they call the stuff that had 90% junk.
Ironic.
Okay, so folks decide, okay, I got X number of dollars, and you discuss that with them, and then it gets split up. And I must say, no one at Camino, if you run into somebody who says, well, is that all you got? Come on, you can find more. To me, hang the phone up. And that's something I know you guys have never done. But I heard that from some other people, not about Camino, but about some other organizations.
Yeah.
That they try to rifle them for more. So if that happens, walk away. And as you say, if they're trying to lock you into commemorative coins or higher premium things, look out.
Yes.
Whoa, don't go there.
Absolutely.
Now here's the other issue folks bring up. Okay, so they get this box in the mail. Okay. And folks say, okay, so I got this box of some silver and some gold. So the safest place I know is my safety deposit box in a bank. So that's where I'm going to take it. Power move or not a good move? Not a good move. Why?
The banks they own the safety deposit boxes. Even though you rent them, they own them. And so I always tell people that if a frenzy or anything occurred and you needed access to it, they kind of have the first option to the access to it. And I just think that the intention of precious metals in general is to make sure that we protect ourselves from the banking system, because the banking system has shown its true colors over the past 100 years. And I think that it's critical that we don't put money back into it after we attempt to preserve it.
And options of where folks store their gold and silver.
Yeah.
What are the options on their radar screen that they would have?
So I always tell people a great option is private depositories. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing more and more of them pop up, especially with more and more people becoming aware of precious metals and their capabilities. You've used Brinks over the years, which is a great option. And Brinks as well as also they've established more facilities in order to meet their clientele, which is really great. And on top of that, I've also found there's also private depositories. Another great one is the Delaware Depository out on the East Coast. They're fantastic. And we also have some local ones up here in the Los Altos Vault. Privately owned, very secure, safe, and has no connection to the banking system.
Now, a number of folks have contacted me and say, the majority of my financial ammo is in my IRA.
Right.
But folks say, I've been told that you cannot purchase precious metals in physical precious metals in an IRA. Folks have said, I'm only told I can buy paper precious metals like the GLD fund or the SLV fund that are listed on the New York Stock Exchange, but I can't buy physical precious metals in an IRA. Is that true? And if it is not true, how do folks do that?
So that is not true. You can buy precious metals in IRA. The one portion of that I will say is some companies are not at the point where they do allow you to buy precious metals. So you would have to transfer money out of the IRA company that you're working with to one that does allow you to, in order to be able to do it. I'm a huge advocate for buying precious metals in an IRA, even though some of the concern that people have is that they don't get to take possession of the metals. If you purchase through an IRA, it's required that the metals be stored at a depository that's ran by the IRA company. The reason being is I know in your area, we've talked about this, we see a lot of people of 65 and over back at work because of what they experienced back in 2008.
Right.
And IRA companies and IRAs, they were some of the first things to go during the crisis.
Right.
And that's why I'm a huge advocate for putting a portion at least of your IRA into precious metals, because I think that people deserve to live a long, happy life and have retirement and enjoy life for what it has at the end of their time. So the main thing is you want to give me a call. I'll go over who your IRA is currently through. We'll work together to make sure that they allow you to purchase precious metals. If not, I'll talk to you about the process in order to transfer the money over, so that we can get it into a company that does allow you to buy precious metals. Then I prefer the self-directed IRAs. The reason being is, as you know, I'm all about liberty and freedom and making your own decisions. And if in a self-directed IRA, you don't call your broker to make the purchase. You make the purchase and then send the receipt to your broker. So some great options. There's Gold Star Trust. They're out in Texas. They're a great option. Another one is New Direction IRA. They're out in Colorado. They're two of the companies that we work with pretty frequently. So once you place the purchase, they'll send payment, and then we'll send the precious metals to the depository. All of the IRA companies offer multiple depositories because they know that people are spread out throughout the United States. That way you can pick something that's close to you so that maybe you feel a little bit more comfortable even making the purchase into an IRA as it is, so that if you wanted to drive to it, or if you needed to make a visit to it and was a concern of yours, so you can always choose something that's close to you.
What's the biggest mistake, Adriana, people make when it comes to precious metals that you've found over the years?
It's always the same, Dave. It's that people wait until there's a problem to try to fix it. Yeah. And for me, my goal, and the goal of Camino Company, is to protect people ahead of time. I find that this country does not protect people like it should. And financially, that's the biggest problem. I think that people investing into precious metals is critical to survival, because as you and I have talked about, the feds will create bubbles, and they're going to keep doing it as long as they exist. And they cause these ups and downs that will always work in the benefit of their agenda. And so my goal is to always make sure that people have what they need in order to make it through the down times. And that's our goal.
Well, it's interesting. The biggest mistake that you point out in getting precious metals as an insurance policy, if you will, is actually the same mistake people made that I found in 32 years of clinical medicine and practice, is that a problem arises medically, and they think it's going to go away, and then it gets worse, and then they finally say, "Oh, I need to do something."
Right.
And many times, if they would have done something just a step or two ahead, they would be in far better shape, and their longevity would be enhanced.
Absolutely.
So, Adriana, how can folks get in touch with you? I know you have a website, but can you give us your website, your phone number, email, whatever you can do?
Yeah, so you can email me directly at Adriana, Adriana, at CaminoCompany.com. Camino Company, spell it all the way out. You can also go to our website. We have a link that has a contact. And also, I think the best thing, though, and I will always say this, is to contact us directly. We're a family-ran business, And we actually really enjoy talking to people because I believe that it creates a better understanding of what it is that you're doing because everybody is different. So you can contact us at 800-348-8001.
Adriana, I'd like to thank you. You know, you and all the family at Camino have served so many people over the years, and I can tell you that my first interaction with Camino was with Bert,
Right.
who is no longer with us, but he's with us
Right.
in different ways. But you know, and an interesting point about Bert, is that Bert was probably the person who guided Ron Paul at the very beginning in his trek into sound money.
Right, exactly.
And it's interesting that him teaching Ron Paul about sound money has continued through the years with you doing this type of video and instructing all the Ron Pauls out there that are focused on freedom and liberty and individual empowerment. And I thank you, Adriana, because I know you take grief for doing what you do. I mean, there are a lot of folks that blow grief at anyone and everyone who speak about precious metals, that they're barbaric relics and that they won't hold value and they don't pay any interest. Really? Go look at your bank account and see how much interest you're getting. But I thank you for weathering the storm of people trying to, if you will, diminish the role of precious metals when in fact it is a lifeboat. And I thank you for being in that lifeboat for all of us, with always two oars in the water and moving the boat down the path of freedom. And I thank you. And I thank all the folks at Camino.
Thank you, Dave.
Well, folks, I'd like to thank you for your time today. Thank you for joining us again, Adriana at Camino, CAMINO, CaminoCompany.com, 800-348-8001. There we go. And again, I have known the Camino Company for several decades, and I can't think of a more honest group of people to help you down the road for your financial freedom and your security. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thank you for your time today.